day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Stampy Ranga Podcast. Today we have a very special guest coming from America. I believe you're in Santa Barbara. Is that correct, Shaums?
No. I'm up the West Coast now, so I'm up in Washington State.
Oh, did you say Oregon? Did you say Oregon to me?
Well, I'm in Washington, so there's California, Washington, and then or California, Oregon, and then Washington. And so Washington's at the northern end. So I'm 20 minutes from the Canadian border.
Okay. Yeah, right. Okay, cool. Because I somehow remember it's like Santa Barbara. Maybe that might have been a long time ago. I'm not sure.
Oh, it was, yeah. And I lived there for a long time. I think I was in Santa Barbara for a good 15, 20 years with, my whole race career.
That's where I'm getting it from, man. Like, that just goes to show that, like, how long we've actually known each other. I mean, like, I was trying to add it up, and I was tipping around 20 years is the amount of time that we've known of each other. Like, obviously, I didn't actually get to meet you until I went to America myself and got to meet a whole bunch of guys that I'd been watching on the videos and such as I was growing up. I mean, like, I'm a bit younger than you, aren't I? Like, I'm 43. What are you tipping now, Shaums?
Yeah, just 50. You're going to be 51 next month.
Wow. Yeah, right. 50, the half century.
Yeah.
I love it.
Man, it's kind of scary to be this old.
No. Older and wiser. That's all it is.
Yeah. I think I missed out on one of those.
Shaums, we're getting a lot of media coverage about those fires in California. Are you affected by them at all, or are you?
We're not, but my family down in California are. Yeah. So we've got some families that people are evacuated. I know some people that lost their houses, and my brother's taking people into his house that might need police. Yeah.
Like we get snippets of it. I mean, like I said, I don't really watch the TV, but like just the short things that I have seen, man. I mean, I don't think I've seen something like that ever in my life. I mean, like in Australia, we get bushfires. We've had some damn big ones for sure, but it just seems like the wind over there is definitely not helping, and like the amount of locations of fires. I mean, that's just kind of scary, to be honest.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. It's spot fires everywhere, and with the winds so high, when you go out and make a big bonfire and you take a blower and you blow on your fire, right? And it gets it going. Yeah. That's what's going on. So it's just, the fire starts and the wind blows, and then the wind just ignites everything and just makes it super hot. So, and I know the Santa Ana winds down there, those are kind of like your hot nights. And to have that hot wind blowing through, it's just keeping it going. And it'll jump canyons and valleys and start on the next ridge, and then it'll jump to the next ridge just because it's over through the air.
All the cinders and whatnot just floating through the air, ready to start again. It's pretty crazy. I mean, like
the crazy thing I think that is really impacting is because in all of that coastal, area of forest, basically, there are so many homes and towns kind of intermingled in there. We just did a wedding last spring or last summer there. And the place we were at was a huge, wedding area, all these different places, and it's all gone. And I just heard from them, the whole place burned down. I was like, oh, that's so sad.
I'm not laughing at all. It's just like, those are some of the images that I've seen, some of the very few that I've seen. And just like, the word is devastation, but like, really, I mean, I just hope everyone's okay and everyone's smart about these situations. I mean, like, I think I mentioned before, like, we get bushfires as well, man. And like, it is basically get out and take, photos, wedding photos or whatnot, make sure the kids are safe, and the rest is history, basically. So
I remember when we were young, Nathan, you had a big bushfire sort of coming down towards your home, and you actually evacuated to my house.
I know. Yeah. Like, that was the point of call. I mean, like, we just went down to the deer farm there and we didn't know what was going on. This was before mobile phones as well. So there was no real like contact with what was going on. And you could pretty much see where I lived up on the mountain there, and smoke bellowing, like, unknowing what is actually happening. But
your dad and Loco stayed to fight, and it's pretty hairy time.
Yeah, well, that's what you did back then. You sent the kids and everybody away, and you fought the fire the best you could.
Yeah, that was it. Women and children first. That's what it was.
Yeah. Now it's now there's, we've got so much digital stuff, but there's these, important lists that are going around as a checklist to make sure you have all these items ready to go in case. So it's
we get
helping.
the same thing. Yeah.
But
we get the same little checklist. We get it sent out and whatnot. Like everyone's pretty cluey as well. And like I remember even at school, like primary school, like when I was a kid, they had like fire education programs there to just like inform the kids on what to do, what not to do, and sort of thing. And like obviously don't play with the fire and don't think it's funny kind of thing. Like, but that's just like common sense, really. But
well, and I hope that they're not having arsons there too, and that's what I thought I had heard, but you never know what's more. So
I heard the same thing through the grapevine, and I actually thought that as well. And like you'd hate to think that people take advantage of the situations. Like now I can start my crazy fire because no one will notice because there's so many other ones, potentially. But let's just hope and cross fingers that sort of thing isn't happening. But
there seems to be seems to be a lot of conspiracy theories flying around too, and similarities to the Hawaiian fires. Do you buy into any of that, Shaums, or?
I try not to, but it's all there. It's just, what do you believe? So you can say something about the conspiracy theories of it all, but we don't know. So I try not to even put those into what I'm thinking is going on. Right. I know there's arsons that are out there. I know people are looting, right? Going into homes and stealing whatever they can. And, and I think that's ridiculous, but that's everywhere you go.
Yeah. There are some people in this world that just don't see things like there's a lack of compassion for the beginning, and see an opportunity, then it's just not a good idea. Not good people. Very, very frowned upon. It's just downright outrageous, to be honest.
Yeah. So are you guys have been doing good there in Australia though?
Yeah. I mean, like, I recently moved to a new area. We've been here for a few months now, and my fiance, she's got work down here in New South Wales. I'm in Wollongong, New South Wales, which is kind of near Sydney.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of near Sydney. And then Daniel there, Ranga. You've been in Western Sydney your whole life,
Whole life, mate. You think I'd move, wouldn't you?
Yeah, right. But hopefully you've traveled.
I know what I like. So
there we go. Yeah, good thing.
What was your childhood like growing up in the US?
It was a bit of mishmash. I had a nomadic mother that wanted. She basically we'd pick up and we would move on a dime. It was. Dad left when I was young into the military, and then went MIA for 20 some odd years. It was kind of weird, and there was some crazy stories about it. But so we bounced around from Alaska. I was up there, born in Alaska, and then down into Texas, or I guess more into Washington, right across the border, from Alaska to Canada, and then into Washington. And then I think that's where my mom's side of the family was. But bounced around and then down into Texas, where my dad's side of the family was, to go meet his brothers, or my uncles. And so we got to meet that side of the family. And then we kind of went back and forth between Alaska and Texas for a few years. And I know I got into BMX during that time as a kid. And then we did some road trips from Texas all the way to Alaska. And, and that's like 4 or 5 day road trip, basically.
Yeah, man.
In the car, we would pull over at different places. And I remember we pulled over in California, in Santa Barbara. And if anybody knows, as you're coming north into Santa Barbara and you pull off on, I forget the exit, and it pulls out right along the beach. And it's the most beautiful beach, as you can see. And we were all kids stuck to the window going, "Mom, we want to live here." And she pulled over, got a hotel for a couple of nights. She looked in the newspaper, I'm guessing, back then. And she found a job, got a job, and put us in school. And all of a sudden we lived there. So it was kind of
no way.
Yeah. We were pretty nomadic, and it was, every couple of years, Mom would say, what are we doing next? So,
that is unreal.
To me, that sounds idyllic, you know, like you. But how did you feel about this? Was it you know, you wanted a bit of regularity, you know, you wanted to be in one spot for a long time?
I'm just guessing you were so young. That was just kind of the norm. I'm guessing.
That's exactly what, because we were always traveling. It was always back to Texas to see family, you know, back to Alaska, and then we would travel down to go see her relatives in Washington. So we were always kind of on the go, and it's a bit of a blur for me, but I think I was okay with it. I was just going along for the ride. We were always meeting new people and, you know, having a good time wherever we were. And I guess it just felt like it was going so fast. I didn't know regular life. This was it. It was kind of being ready to go at any time. And I guess when I got into high school, junior high and high school is when I really was like, wow, you know, I think I went to 4 or 5 different high schools. So it was bouncing around. And when I recognized that, man, I guess I do travel a lot. And then, I mean, that was right when the time, you know, elementary, junior highs when I got into BMX. So I was bouncing around, I guess, the West Coast into Texas, you know, back and forth there, and meeting lots of new people. You know, remember the movie Rad?
Yes.
So that's right when I was into BMX, and then we were in Santa Barbara then. And I remember they had the Rad tours that came through.
No way.
And like Eddie Fiola and Josh White and a few of the other BMX freestyle guys that were extras and stunts in the movie. So they would come out and do their shows. And I remember in Santa Barbara, we got to hang out with them after the show and take them to our dirt jumps. And all of us were just in awe that these guys were at our dirt jumps and hanging out with us. And so that really got my fire lit of, oh my God, I could be a biker. And oh my, this is so cool. So, you know, back then it was just, we were just living day to day, and, you know, mom would say we're moving. And as I got into that high school stage of doing BMX and being basically a punk on the street, you know, and we were running around, and that was when I wanted to stay, you know, and mom was like, no, we're moving. And that's when I started getting rebellious because mom wanted to keep moving. And I was like, I want to hang out with my crew.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And that was when I kind of got into, I guess, being a more of a troublemaker, right? We were, you know, breaking car windows and, you know, just doing stupid stuff as kids and getting chased by people. And that was kind of the fun of it, because we were on a BMX. We could get away, and no matter what it was, we could outrun the cops because we knew the area well enough. And
oh man,
I read an article about you and your time in Texas, and you know, got in a lot of fights and were even shot at. Was this around those times when you were smashing windows?
It was basically right before that, you know, was when I was rambunctious, and then I went to Texas, and that's when I, you know, was getting into fights and, you know, having that gun chase. And that's when my mom sent me away. She was like, okay, you need to get out of here. This is not a safe place for you. And so my brother was, I want to say he was 18 or 19 in California. And because he moved back to Santa Barbara without us. And so we were in Texas, and my brother said, yeah, you can come live with me. And so I went back to California. And I think I might have been 15. I don't think I was driving yet. And so I was living with my brother and had a job so that I could help pay rent, and we had roommates. So, you know, I kind of grew up real quick because I might have been 14 or 15 at that time, you know, moving out and living on my own with my brother. And then instantly I realized, okay, I can't be a dumbass because now I'll get in trouble and nobody's here to protect me. Mom's not going to get me out of trouble anyway.
That's it. Like, you better grow up pretty quick. I mean, 15 years old, that's about the time when you should be getting some smarts about you regardless, you know. But sounds like, I don't know if you did it the hard way or the correct way, but like, you know, the faster you grow up, the better is what I see, you know. Like, just like throw yourself in the deep end and just find out for yourself. I mean, like, there's a lot of spoon-fed kids out there, which I don't know if I disagree with it, but secretly I do. You know, I mean, like, leaving kids to their own resources is a very crucial part of life, you know, and just kind of figuring out, making mistakes and, you know, learning how to correct those mistakes, you know. I mean, that's how you learn. It is exactly how you learn. I mean, like, I can sort of talk in the same boat as well. I mean, like, the area that I grew up in, Western Sydney, although I didn't realize at the time, it's actually I'm not saying it's a rough area, but there is definitely some suspicious characters around that would influence you in ways that, you know, being young, you didn't really know. I mean, like I as a kid, you know, like started smoking weed and doing that sort of thing, drinking at a young age, and, you know, not really doing anything wrong, only because I didn't know that it was wrong, you know. So I was just having fun, but like at the same time, as you get older, and like you grow up pretty quick. I mean, like, I started going overseas, which we'll touch on in a little bit, but I had to grow up pretty damn quick as soon as I got overseas. I didn't have anything. I had very little money. I didn't have my parents with me, and it was basically like 17 years old, living in California, and you know, I wasn't even old enough to get a beer, you know, I'm not even old enough to get a beer in Australia. But like, that's just an example of how naive I was when I first went to America, sort of thing.
But that was for racing, wasn't it? What were you doing?
Yeah, well, I'll give you the quick crash course. I mean, like, basically, 1998 come around. I went to Mount St. Anne World Championships riding bikes. You know, I had a good result, and just by chance, we stopped with Mal Dalton, a good friend of mine, in California. And we basically started shaking hands and talking to the guys there. And literally 8 months later, I was living in Big Bear, California, riding for a team. I wasn't getting paid any money, although I was getting housed and getting bikes. And that's where my racing career started in 1999. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next year.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the crash course. But that's enough about me. So let's just
can I just interrupt? I want to know more about this shooting. Growing up, the closest I came to that was we rode into this hillbilly's paddock when he had all crashed cars and stuff there, and we were sort of looking through all the cars, and he come chasing out after us, and he grabbed one of us by the ear and said, "I'm going to shoot you and do this," and you know they're probably just empty threats, but to hear, you know, actually getting shot at, like, this is amazement to me. Can we hear the story?
I don't even know if I remember the whole story, but it was basically a party. And when it comes down to it, we were on the wrong side of the tracks. Yeah. Right. So I was hanging with a group of guys that they didn't care who I was and what I looked like, but we went to a party and all of a sudden I wasn't the guy that should be at that party. Okay. And so it was like, oh, okay. And, you know, we were trying to do what we could do, but they were not happy. And we got into it and there was a scuffle. And then basically we were leaving and then they started chasing us. And it was the shooting and all of that while we were driving after us. And we made it back on the other side of the town and they were still chasing us and shooting at us. And then we crossed the main highway that had lights. And I remember we didn't stop. We went straight through the lights on the main freeway. We were lucky it was nighttime and there was no traffic, but we could have been hit by a semi on the highway. And we just crossed going full speed. And then they stopped there and then we kept going. And that was basically it. And I just remember from now thinking about it, I don't think I ever went back to that corner side of town.
I wonder why not. I wonder.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it was probably less than a month after that my mom basically said, okay, you need to leave. For hearing about it.
You know, I'd love to give her a high five for that because I think she might have made the right decision. I think.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it was Texas. You know, there was just so much racism and so much division there, and I was just such a free thinker that, having lived in Alaska and traveled all over the country, I didn't know any different. I was like, hey, we're all just people. Let's hang out. And, you know, I would be friends with people. I would meet people. And a lot of times the troubles I got, because my wife now likes to tease me because of my eyes, you know, she's like, oh, you just, you know, you flap your eyelashes, bat your eyelashes and show them your eyes and you'll get in, or you'll get whatever you want. And so back then, being, you know, black kid with green eyes, I would make friends and the girls were, oh my God, you were beautiful, blah, blah, blah. But it always seemed to be with the wrong people. And I would get in trouble. Why are you talking to my girl? Why are you talking to my sister?
So like the first word that comes to my mind is they were absolutely flat out jealous of you. Is what it was. So like you got into some jealousy battles with some guys there that were just like, who is this handsome man coming into my world here? I don't like this handsome man.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
What am I supposed to do?
Well, and then again, when I had moved around and
I get the same thing, you know, but
like, and living in California, and everybody was like, you're kind of new, because this was a small town in Texas, and I again was from all over, and so that it was like, you've been here, you've been there, and I always had stories. I knew, you know, I was a little more worried than just the small town kids that were there, that all they did was watch football and basketball and then go out on the logging roads and drink. Like, I was doing different stuff.
So this charismatic, good-looking guy comes to town, and all of a sudden you were trouble.
Oh yeah,
amazing what a bit of competition can do.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny thinking back about it now. And I mean, I had a couple of really good friends, and that was kind of it. Like, everybody else were acquaintances, and you know, nowadays with like Facebook, people still hit me up, and you know, I'm like, oh my God, I remember you from high school there. And yeah, it's just weird though, like thinking way back to them.
Yeah.
Oh man, like this is definitely this is a conversation I didn't see coming. That's for sure. I mean, like, I know you're from your writing background. I mean, like, when you first sort of started, we might even start on that. I mean, that's a great introduction to here. Give us a bit of background. I mean, like, I wanted to start off with like some of those early videos. I mean, like, we mentioned Plush before. I think that was like one of the first. It was the first movie that I saw you in when I was a young man back in the day, and like, one of my good friends, Jared Rando, part of the Junior Assault Squadron, I stayed at his place in between some of the races. I mean, like, I spent like a week at his place from time to time, and I was in his backyard once, and like, we were mucking around with bikes and everything like that, and he's like, Nathan, you got to come and see this. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's just like, no, drop everything, come and have a look at this. And so we went inside, went in the back door, they put in the VHS, the cassette tape, the VHS, put it on, and then all of a sudden I was watching this movie, and it was Plush, and they were just like, you got to see this guy, right? And like, all of a sudden, it's got this guy in a San Andreas, like, this is back in the day when I was a kid, and it was you. And like of course, I didn't know anything about you at the time, and he's just like, look at this shit, look at this. And so I'm watching this. I think you're at, correct me if I'm wrong, like Sheep Hills or something like that, and you're just riding, doing these huge jumps that I'd never ever seen before as a kid. I mean, like, sure, like, I've seen some other videos. I've done my own jumps. I was only sort of young and not really going so big. Later on, different story. But like, I was amazed. I was like, from what I'd seen to that day to then what I saw that day, within an hour, I was like, what am I looking at? And like, Rando was sitting there like, see, I told you. And like, I was over the moon. And like, I was just a believer in mountain biking since that day. I already was, but like, it really opened my eyes onto what a mountain bike can do. And I mean, like, I'm not saying that you were kind of bootleg, but like, doing the stuff that you were doing on that bike in the situations, like, I was honestly, what's the word? I was very, very impressed by it. And so all I can do is just thank you very much for that. You know,
oh, that's awesome. Well, you're welcome. I think it was so cool. I'm happy to hear that. So thank you. And I think it's really cool because we were just like you, right? Just a couple years later is all we were, because we were just hyped on mountain biking, you know, and my BMX background is what got me into that whole being a jumper, and then getting onto a mountain bike and realizing, oh my God, there's suspension. It means I can jump bigger, right? I can more. And yeah, and I remember like the Sheep Hills thing, like the BMXers there thought I was crazy, and they were like, they would step back to go, let's see this guy try it. And yeah, I thought it was really cool going to Sheep Hills. And then there were a few other spots that I think we shot, like we were in Santa Barbara for another section there, I think, where I was doing the big knack.
The knack. Yeah.
And it's funny because that knack, you know, we turned that into a silhouette, and that became my logo that I used for.
I've seen it. I've seen. Yeah.
And it's out of the Plush video. So that is actually out of the video. We snapped it and turned it into a silhouette, and that became my logo for forever.
I remember that.
Yeah. And then, God, I'm trying to think what else in Utah we shot, and, you know, he did the whole follow the race scene, but we shot in all these cool spots. And I think, you know, what was it? There's like those roof drops that were the free rides we're doing. Like they were doing the ski hill. And so I remember seeing off the roof, and it was it was out in the park. So it was just a shelter area.
I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. And then jumping off of that. And I remember going, I think I could jump off of that. And them going, no way, you think you can? And I was like, I don't know. I'm willing to try it. And that's what it took, was just trying that stuff back then. And man, it was so much fun living day to day, moment to moment back then. And you know, I'm willing to put it all on the line. That was just so much fun back then. And every day was, what can you imagine? What can you try? Where can we go back to try it again? And that's, every day was like that. And what year was that? 98, 90. So I don't think I was full-time riding mountain bikes. I think I was still working. And so, you know, every day, that's right, because John Kirkcaldy came and lived in Santa Monica. And so him and I were racing together as well, too. Yeah.
That's right. I remember that story. I mean, like as I mentioned before, I was kind of young at the time. I mean, like you went from San Andreas, and then you rode a Schwinn for a while. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah. And so, was that when you were with John on that team, or am I wrong?
So John and I lived together before that. So he was on a Cannondale, I think, with a head shock. And then what was I on then? I think I was riding a KHS for a year. It was mountain cycle, KHS, a couple small little companies that were, you know, like we were sponsored by Stratos Shocks, and Stratos shocks. And then they gave us, you know, bikes to use of whoever we wanted. But yeah, that was way back. I'm trying, Tucker. It's okay. Told you.
No, Richie's doing the same, don't
we? But yeah, John and I, you know, we started living together, and we were living in a warehouse that had a makeshift like living quarters up above it. And we had made beds that hang off the wall. There was basically just a sink to wash your hands and stuff, and then a shower. And so we made countertops and, you know, made ourselves a little place to live up in this warehouse. And I remember he was working countertop company, and I was working at a mechanic shop, and we were riding bikes every day, training and riding, and then just going to races as, I think we were beginners, and I think we turned expert pretty quickly, or sport. Yeah. That's right. Beginner, sport, and then expert. And we did probably a year of racing and moved up, you know, pretty quickly, both of us. And we were doing the California State Series, and then some of our local things. And then that year, I think we went beginner, sport, and then to expert. And then he moved back to New Zealand, and then I jumped into semi-pro or whatever they had back then.
Semi-pro, I believe.
Yeah, semi-pro and then pro. Yeah, and that's got to be back to, you know, 94, 95, something like that.
I wasn't even there. I was still in diapers back then. Far out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and that was the big learning curve, I think, for me, right? Because I was just full throttle thinking, oh, I could do anything. I felt invincible, and that it came from my lifestyle of being a BMX rider. But then I used to ride motocross with friends, and, you know, we were always kind of partying and we were doing crazy stuff. And so I had a street bike back then, and I remember riding wheelies. Actually, this was on my dirt bike. My XR 600 was my old dirt bike, and I made it street legal. But I would ride a wheelie on the highway, on the on-ramp, and get on the highway, and I would ride that wheelie for a couple of miles, going 60, 70 miles an hour, and finally put the wheelie down and then get off on the next exit or whatever.
So you were that guy, you know, you were that guy. Yeah. Everyone driving on the freeway on the way home, they get home, it's like, you wouldn't believe this guy on the freeway. We did this wheelie all the way down. I think you were the talk of the town, is what I'm saying.
And I'm sure everybody thought this guy's going to be dead any day now. Right? Yeah. Because I remember doing stupid stuff, like when I had my street bike at that point. I remember going down the highway, going to work, and I just adrenaline junkie, I would take it up to 100 plus miles an hour, and I'd go in between the semi trucks and cars down, zoop, zoop, and that's what you see people doing now on YouTube, right? But I was doing that back in 90, 96, 95. Yeah, and I mean, I did get in an accident, and that was, wasn't doing the 100 plus miles an hour. It was pulling into my driveway at work, and a lady pulled down the street going the opposite way and just T-boned me, basically.
Oh, no.
Lucky.
Yeah. And that was 98. 98? No, 97. Because no, not 98, 98. It was 92. God, man, that's a long time ago.
Maybe got hit a bit too hard to remember.
Oh, man, there's too many times. I've had, again, we can get on the concussion talk about that, too. I'm sure you've had a few yourself.
You know what? I've had one good one, and then I'm pretty sure I had another one, but I had one bad one where, like I was throwing up. Like one of the byproducts of getting concussion is you vomit. And so I didn't know what was going on. I got home, like I crashed my bike, obviously. It wasn't wearing a helmet. Naughty. But then at the same time, like I got home and I was sitting on the back step. I had my hands on my head like this. And my dad came home from work. He's like, "What's the matter?" And I literally stood up and went to the bathroom and threw up. And then Dad was just like, "Oh, you'll be fine," sort of thing. My dad's kind of that sort of guy, But then, sure enough, Mum got home and she took me straight to hospital, and like she didn't know what was happening, and like, I was concussed. I had a concussion. I was too young to realize what was going on. All I knew that I wasn't thinking right, and I was throwing up for no real reason. I had like blood off my head, but yeah, well, like we're mountain bikers, so that's just part of the game. It's just what it is, But silly me, like I wasn't wearing a helmet, like at all, So,
well, think about back then as a kid, right, Daniel? Nobody wore helmets. It wasn't a thing yet.
Yep. Yeah, it was uncool to wear a helmet. Yeah.
Well, and if anything, it was put a hat on.
Yes.
I think I had a hat. I think I had a hat on. Yeah.
You couldn't wear your helmet because
backwards basketball cap backwards.
Yeah, exactly. If it was backwards, you were cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aerodynamic, like coming into the jumps.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you needted.
Did your careers overlap at any stage, or did you race together?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Yeah.
How was, competitiveness between you two?
You were talking about Plush, right? So
yeah. Let's talk about that more.
We're watching Plush back then because we hadn't met yet, but that was was that 98?
It would have been about 98 if memory serves. Yeah, that would have been 98 because I think. Like I said, I went to Rando's place, and that's the first time I saw this video. That's when we sort of got to know each other. I think I did World Championships that year was in Canada, Mount St. Anne. So it would have been about that time. Yeah.
Okay.
98.
Because I think I had met you maybe that following year or later in the year, but it was I want to say it was at Mount Summit or California. Mount Snow.
It would have been Big Bear. It would have been Big Bear for sure because I spent that year. I spent roughly 5 months in Big Bear, and that's when they had the Norba race there. I think that's probably the first time I saw you. I mean, I knew of you. Then I saw you, and like the boys are just like that Shaums March kind of thing. And then like we had a World Cup. I think it was like the week after even. But then that's where it was like a back-to-back weekend, 1999, I believe. But that's when I first went over there, like that's when I was young and just didn't really know what I was doing. And that's when I met like all you pro guys that like all of us had seen on the videos, yourself, Kakaldi. I sort of knew of Kakaldi, like he's a little bit closer to home from New Zealand. But like I remember that first Norba race that I went to in California there, Big Bear, and like, all these guys, including yourself, like everyone that I'd seen on the videos was like at my fingertips, and I was just like a kid in the candy store. Like these are my idols right in front of me here, and I'm about to race against these guys that I looked up to. It was pretty well. Like every young aspiring athlete in any sport, when they see their idols, they're just like, what the hell is going on here? I'm about to race these guys. But yeah, it was very, very eye-opening experience there, and like I was, like I kind of said, like just kid in the candy store, loved it.
Yeah.
I know the feeling, Nate. When I used to race really early with you, You know, we'd read Australian Mountain Bike magazine and things like that, and then we'd go to races and we'd see these guys that we've seen in the magazines, and it was like, whoa, there's that guy, you know, like 100%.
Yeah,
100%
yeah, and then like as time goes on, as you know, Shaum, I mean, like as time goes on, like I have my own successes and stuff. That all of a sudden, like I became that guy as well. Like it's amazing how it kind of progressed, and like after 5 or 6 years. I was that guy, and like I was in your shoes, basically. So it was just, it was weird how everything changes, but like all of a sudden you're on the other side of the, on the other side of the,
right? Because
outside of the mirror, you're looking yourself in the mirror, sort of thing.
That's Nathan Rennie. Oh my God, I want to meet that guy. I want to ride with that guy. Like I totally wanted to ride with you and chase you down trails because I loved your style, and I just was like, oh. And then every time we would chat, we would have a good chat, but we were always going in opposite directions.
Yeah, it's just it's how it is. Like it's like that in every sport. I mean, like you still have your obligations and whatnot. You race for your team, you know, like you cross paths and like you say hello and everything. Like everyone gets along. I mean, like mountain biking has a very good sense of like camaraderie and everything like that. Like very, very few times there's any sort of real beef between anyone. It's great. It's a great little environment sort of thing. But as you said, like you cross paths, high five in the pits. You know, much respect, and then we go our opposite ways, kind of thing.
Yeah,
that's just how it is.
So I want to pull us back to Plush because we were talking about a concussion. I got to tell you this one.
All right, let's go.
Plush was one of them where we were at Big Bear there, and then just down from Big Bear was that little halfway ski resort there. I forget what
Arrowhead.
And so I remember we had gone to Arrowhead to do some shooting for Plush, and this whole scene here, one of my friends, we were always doing racing as well, but after this whole scene, he quit racing. He said, I can't do this anymore. So we were up there doing this whole video shoot and, you know, staging different things. And Thor Wixom, who was setting up the Plush video, you know, we had this big jump and it was a big floater coming down and he had it all, you know, people standing, getting the video set up. And I remember saying, wow, it's a little windy right now. And, you know, so we had waited a little bit and I was like, I think we could do it now. You know, did it a couple of times. And I said, okay, I think I can really give her and send it down this. And so I don't, you know, I sent it and I know I went bigger than I, you know, normally would or did. But then the wind had picked up again and it just turned me sideways in the air, slapped, and I hit the ground. And I think I hit with the back of my head because I don't remember anything.
Oh man!
But this is where, you know, kind of, I guess I went out of sight or whatever, and people came and found me, and so I was convulsing. I was foaming out of the mouth, and so they called the ambulance, and the ambulance came up and got me. And you know, I had pissed myself. Like everything was, nobody could stop me, and so by the time they got me to the ambulance, you know, the guys were helping me get going. I guess I'd stopped convulsing, but I was still out for another hour or two before I had woke up.
Oh my goodness.
I didn't wake up until I was in the hospital, not knowing anything that had happened.
Oh
and
man.
We're like, wow. So they had to explain what had happened that whole day. And I still don't remember much of it. I know I was told things and I can like picture where we were, but I don't remember any of it. And it's just a weird,
man.
Yeah. But one of my best friends, like back then, Dave Langer, and he's a surfer as well. But basically after that, he was like, no, I'm done. No more mountain bike racing. No more. This is crazy.
Yeah, right.
And he went surfing basically.
This is something much safer.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, sure, you get eaten by sharks.
Yeah. You could drown instead of being concussed, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I think I would rather have control versus Mother Nature coming down on me like that. Like,
yeah, I agree. I mean, I had a short little, I can sort of surf, you know, but like at the same time, like I guess a figure of speech, I was a fish out of water. I couldn't really surf that well, you know, like mountain biking was my thing. That's how I grew up. I grew up in the Blue Mountains, and just riding it just overtook everything in my life, you know, like it was one of those things where I'm sure you were the same for a while, where like I could not, like if I didn't ride during a day, like I would feel uncomfortable to the point where like I'd be thinking about it, and first thing the next morning, I'd have to even just sit on my bike. Like I just had to sit on it, feel it, just make sure it's there. It's like, okay, now I'm good. Now I can continue on my day, sort of thing. I was addicted to it, you know.
Yeah,
I'm sure
it's
you
your
were
outlet.
as well.
Yeah, it's your everything outlet. It's your personality, and you know. And I remember high school, like people were like, "Yeah, you were the kid on the bike, always. You were the kid on the bike." Like, yep.
That's it. Yeah, maybe you should do it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's been one of your greatest achievements to date?
Yeah, I was going to get into like exactly my next little topic here. I mean, like just give us a rundown of some results there. Like we'll still talk about mountain bike, and we'll get into the other cool stuff in a bit. But like I remember, you did pretty well there for a while, Shaums. There, do you remember all your results?
Yeah, I mean, I did. I guess there was a good year that, you know, my first year of pro, I think that was 97, 98. Yeah. And then it was 90. So 97 was my first year of pro. And it was a great growth year. And that was one of those years that every qualifying race, every qualifier I would go to, I would be in the top 5 or I'd win it. Yeah. And then every race I would blow up. So I would break something, or I would crash, or something would happen.
Yeah, don't worry. That's completely normal.
Right. And I just remember being so mad and God, what the hell? I can't pull it together. And I was a random race somewhere. I want to say it was Midwest. Yeah. I don't know. It was a flat, small course. I remember Palmer had his bus there. Sean Palmer, Kurt Voorhees, and all his hang out together.
Was it Idaho? Maybe I
want to say Michigan or something. It was like the small little hill.
Okay.
And I remember, you know, chatting with those guys, and then I think I'd walked onto the bus at one point, chatting with Palmer there, and he was like, "Dude, you're fucking fast." And I was like, you know, and I was like, "Yeah, thanks. I just got to pull it." And he's like, "No, you just need to slow down." And it was those aha moments for me that it took him telling me to slow down because you're too fast. Just slow down and you'll be fine. And I think that was almost the end of the year. And then the next year I came back with that mindset of, okay, I'm just going to ride my speed. I'm not going to push like I've got to beat everybody. And then from there, 98 was my best year. And I had done a couple of things like the off season, because I was taking it halfway serious then, where I had done like hypnotherapy, thinking that, okay, let me see and get my ADHD brain to calm down a little and focus. And so that, a little bit, yeah. But yeah, so I want to say, and I guess, you know, there were a couple other things that would happen, you know, off season, we had all these events. So in 97, you know, there was, what was it? The ESPN 5-man downhill race.
Yeah. Was that at Mammoth? Was it, or
they had one in Mammoth, and then they had one in Tahoe, I think.
Yeah.
And so the Tahoe one I went to, and I had crashed there. God, where now it's a blur. It's all getting confused. As you can tell, I've hit my head too many times. But I crashed during doing something right now. I don't even remember right now, but I crashed really hard and I gave myself a hernia. And so all of a sudden I couldn't race that 5-man race. And I had, you know, crashed before this event. And so I had to go in and get a surgery, but that was later in the year. And so starting 98, I actually had a whole hernia that was sticking out of my belly and my groin, basically. And I remember having to ball up a sock and then put it down in my groin and push my guts back in, and then duct tape it around my leg to hold it. And that's how I would do it. And my doctors are like, "No, you should not be racing. You should."
I would probably tell you that as soon as the sock come out, I'm like, "Hang on, Shaums, what are you actually doing here? Maybe you should probably take the day off." Maybe.
Yeah. And that's the thing. That was that stupid invincible, like, I'm fine. I would lay on the ground, my feet up, and then I could push my guts back in. And then I would put that thing there and I would duct tape it on there. I'm like, I'm good. I'm going to go do practice, you know? And it was like, oh my God.
Oh man.
We'll deal with it later.
I know that, man. I know that mentality.
How bad could it be? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I know
that was 98 basically. And so I remember, I think it was Mammoth, it was Mammoth. It was Mammoth that was the downhill race there that I had pulled off, I think my first kind of working my way up. And I think I was like 5th or 6th, right? So I was like, okay, this was a good race. And then I went to, I think it was Utah. I should almost look at the schedule, 98, and see, we would know that. Type that in quickly.
All right. Yeah. It's all right. I vaguely remember myself. I mean, like the circuits did try and follow like a certain line around the country, you know. I mean, it's just didn't always work out, but
it was Mammoth, and I believe it might have been Utah or something. And so then from there, I did a little bit better, and I think I might have. I don't think I was on the podium there. I got it, man. I need to know that. And then
there is that site, Roots and Rain. It's probably on Roots and Rain. You heard of that site? Yeah, Roots and Rain is a site like I'm not really promoting, but yeah, like I know that all my results are on there, like at a click of a finger, and there's a lot of other guys. And I wouldn't be surprised if you're on there, to be honest.
Yeah. And I'd have to just go look up, you know, whether it's the Norbert National Series 1998, basically.
We'll get that posted up when.
We'll chuck it in there. Yeah.
So then it was like Utah, and I think I did better there. And then it was the World Cup that was in. No, I guess it was first, wasn't it? It was Breckenridge, Colorado first. And that was the one that Breckenridge.
I have heard of. I don't think I ever did that.
What's that?
Yeah, this was like right when I came in. Like I remember seeing Breckenridge on the calendar. And
that was a World.
Was it a World Cup, Breckenridge? Yeah, right.
That was. Oh, sorry. No. I'm thinking Washington. It was Snoqualmie. Sorry, Snoqualmie.
There you go. Now you're
Yeah. So anyway, that's right. That was Snoqualmie. It was the World Cup, and that was the one that took me out. But it was Breckenridge, Colorado, was the one that I did win. And so that was a super muddy race. Started at 12,000 feet. You know, super high altitude. And I did win that one. And so all of a sudden I felt like, okay, I found it. Let me just keep rolling with this. And so then I went to Breck.
Was that when, hang on a second. Was that when because you went to Ellsworth?
Yes.
Yeah. Was that when you were on Ellsworth?
Yep. That was when I was on Ellsworth.
Yeah.
That whole year, 1998.
That's what I thought, yeah, because like you sort of changed over, and then like I remember seeing you on the Ellsworth. I'd never heard of him before, like so. They're still around. I think I saw an advertisement just recently. Is that correct?
They're still small family, you know, built, I believe, and they've come out with a couple of new designs, but I think the names of the bikes are still the same, from what I remember.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a bit blurry there. So it was Breckenridge, and then I feel like we went to the World Cup, and then the World Cup is where I broke my neck.
That's right. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and so that one there too, I qualified first, beating Nicolas Vouillot, and then when I came down my final race run, I got a rear flat tire and got thrown off the course and broke my neck. And then I had gotten up because I got knocked out, and they helped me and got me going. And I got up, and I was like, I just remember I'm Shaums March, and I'm going to win this race. And I grabbed my bike and I took off with a flat tire, and I made it down the course, thinking that I was doing really well. and I came across the finish line and I passed out and I woke up in the hospital.
So you finished the race with a broken neck?
Yep. Yeah. And so it was a minor break of the neck, but it was still a broken neck. So I was more in shock from it all.
So you didn't get the result you're after, I'm guessing, but you thought you did quite well. But when the result sheet came out, it was like, oh, hey, hang on a minute, I might have lost some time there somewhere.
Yeah. Oh man,
and a flat tire.
It was just, you felt so good because that whole weekend was practice and feeling good, and it was like, oh, I got this, and then to have a flat tire. And I remember, because they call it the Black Forest that you would go into, and it was super steep, rocky. And I remember coming into it going, oh shit, I got a flat. Okay, I can still make it. And as soon as I dove in to like do the sweeping left, it just flew me off. And I think I high-sided down the cliff into trees or whatever. And yeah,
man. Don't worry, I've been in the same situation, man. It's just one of those things. Like I've had a few races where like you're in the start gate, you're on a roll, you've had a few good results, and literally second corner derailleur into the wheel, and the whole thing just explodes. And then like you're on the side of the trail watching the rest of the few remaining riders go down. And and the worst thing is like they turned the chairlift off, so you couldn't jump on the chairlift to go back down the hill. So you had to take your broken bike all the way down the hill, 5,000 feet of elevation down to the bottom, and then explain what happened. Everyone's already packing up,
Yeah. Oh, totally.
I've been there. Don't worry, I've been there. Yeah.
and so like that's the whole like, damn it, you get down there and you're like, oh, I'll throw my stuff in, and everybody's ready to leave, right? And then the other side of that was at that World Cup when I qualified first. I'm the last person to go, and they're taking the tape down before you even go. So they're like, taking everything down. You're the last person. We're ready to leave, and
exactly.
A little stress building right there too.
It's like, you better hurry up because we got to pull this whole place down. You better hurry up.
Yeah. Totally. So then from there, I remember that I had a month or so off until the next race. Here it's just coming up right now here with the series. And I remember with my broken neck, I laid on the couch for 2 or 3 weeks. I went to the doctors and I went to all sorts of chiropractors and stuff. And so, the bumps on the back of your neck, right? Your spinous processes. So I broke in number 7. So C7, I broke it right off. And so all of a sudden I'm missing now. And so what they did is they did, I don't know, some sort of chiropractic hippie voodoo magic. And they pushed that bone over to the side, out of the side of the way, so that it wouldn't get hit by my, I guess my tendons from my neck and everything. And they said, there's nothing else we can do. That's it. You just got to let it heal. And so, I sat and let it heal for I want to say 3 or 4 weeks till the next race. And then
so not enough time, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm no surgeon, but I don't think that's enough time there, Shaums.
So like, you get your results sheet, and it's like, I got stuff to do, so I'm gonna just when I see fit, I'm just gonna do whatever I want, guys. Okay, see ya. But,
well, and that's the thing. That's how it was. I didn't have parents. It was basically I was living on my own and living with friends, and I was off and running. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all.
Daniel, what'd you say?
I was just going to say I'm no surgeon, but I don't think that's enough time.
Right.
Did you feel, was this your thoughts, or did you feel pressure from sponsors and stuff to get back on, or was it?
No, this was all me. This was all me being piss and vinegar. I got it. I'm invincible, and I can make it happen. And that was definitely just how
self-preservation.
Oh yeah. I mean, I had, like I said, before I even started racing, I got hit by a car, street bike, right? And so my whole left side was crushed. My ankle, my knee, my pelvis, and my shoulder. And so I was in a wheelchair for 6 months, had to learn how to walk again. Oh. And after that, back then, it was 92, I guess, 92, 90, yeah. that's when I was like, I'm fucking living every day to its fullest. I don't give a shit anymore. And that's it. Instantly I started racing. I started really like, I'm going after life. Right. And it's kind of interesting because I still, I mean, like we all we're still have our high school friends that we keep in touch with. And I still have my whole crew. Like we still go out and do moto rides every couple of years. And so they remember when I took off, because all of a sudden they were like, man, you were like the party, like we loved hanging out. And then all of a sudden you were gone mountain bike racing and we really never again. And I was like, yeah, dude, I had to go live life to the fullest and versus sitting in town, drinking and partying. And yeah, so
I had a very similar time period there as well. Like, you know, pretty much exactly the same as you. I mean, like going from partying at a young age and then disappearing for 6 months out of the year. It's just like, okay, guys, I got to go and try and win some races now. The partying's over, you know, but like, you know, it's sort of finished. But like at the same time, like when you got an obligation like that, it's just like, okay, you really live. Well, what I'm trying to get to is like, you really live a double life, don't you? Like when you become a professional athlete, you really live a completely double life, two separate lives. You know, you have this circle of friends. It's like, you know, call it business and pleasure kind of thing. But like at the same time, like you just like leave this world and you enter your other world, you know, and that's just what it is.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's weird now that you think back like that. And I missed so many things, right? I missed friends' birthdays. I missed all sorts of, you know, summer boating and all these things that people were doing. And I was off racing mountain bikes. And, you know, as it gets later into racing career, I missed a few weddings that I regret. And I'm like, fuck, I wish I would have skipped that race. Right?
Me too. Me too. Yeah.
And
missed a lot.
Yeah, totally. And as much as it was awesome. And I mean, I don't regret any of it. There were a couple of decisions I probably would do differently.
Oh yeah. So
maybe
such is life, you know, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Like I was exactly the same. I mean, like I would disappear, leave all my friends at home. And then like, even like, as you probably know, like if you're racing World Cups and stuff like that, you get totally pulled out. You don't even speak the language, you know, and you're with a group of people that you barely know, you know, like, sure. Like you're trying to make friends. It's almost like you start all over again. You know, like you just get thrown into a boat where you don't speak the language. You don't really understand what's going on. You can barely take care of yourself. And then you're expected to then go out and win and, you know, promote your sponsors as best as possible. It really is a difficult thing. And like, I can even like, I'll try and sum it up for any aspiring athletes out there. They look from the outside and think, oh, you must have this really lavish life. And like, it must be amazing, like, you know, BSX and BMX kind of thing. And it's just like, it's not exactly that, guys and girls. It's not exactly that. You need to work at it, and you have to, you know, you have to make sacrifices, and you have to, you know, take what you can and use what you can and discard what you don't need as well. And so like, it's pretty easy sometimes to come across, like a lot of sports people get blamed for being a little bit like arrogant kind of thing. But like, like because I've been in that position like yourself, I'm not saying that we are those sort of people, but you can see how people fall into that sort of category. It's just like, we're not rude. We're just trying to get the job done. And like, it's difficult out there. It's a juggling act of like making people happy, making yourself happy, trying to be healthy at the same time. It's put it this way, our viewers out there, professional sporting is more difficult than what you think. It's not just you get everything and all this money, you know, it's not that. You need to still work at it. You might be at the top, but you still got a long way to go. That's what it is.
It's only, what was that, Daniel?
Said sacrifice family and functions and friends and living out of a suitcase, going town to town, you know, just out of whim. It'll be a tough life. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, I don't know about you, Shaums, but sorry, I don't know about you, Shaums, but I used to come home after like traveling for like 5 months. I would still use my bag at home because I have my system out of my bag down pat so well, you know, what needs to be washed, what is clean, what is ready. And then there's the halfway thing. That's got another couple of days in it, sort of thing. And my bag was all set out, like even toiletries and stuff like that stayed in the bag because my system was down pat. And that's what it was. I had the bathroom there. I just went there for a shower. Everything else was in the lounge room. I used to sleep in the lounge room. Like I even brought my bed downstairs. You know, upstairs was that was just an empty area. That was just nothing.
No way.
So I basically turned the downstairs of my unit into a hotel room, you know, because that was my system. That was my system, and that is what worked.
Yeah. Oh, I was right there with you with living out of my bag. Same thing. And I would come home, same thing. It had its spot. You open it up, stay there, right? And I would live out of it as well. I'd have other clothes, but I'd live out of that. And I mean, still today, because I still travel a little bit, I still have most of my stuff in my toiletry bag, right? And
there you go.
Got a drawer that's got a few things, but I still, you know, when I travel, I'm like, oh, there's my bag still.
Exactly.
Zip, go.
You stick with what you know. That's just what it is. Once you got your system down pat, and that's it. You're done. You know.
Yeah, and you learn the routine of it, right? And that becomes the easy part for you, is just doing the routine, right? The ins and outs, meeting people and being friendly with everybody. I think that's the thing that you learn when you travel, is you can befriend everybody and everybody can get along, but you may not become close friends because you're always off on the go anyway.
Yeah, and exactly.
That's the hard part, I think, and the piece that I missed, you know, with that is being able to actually have really good friends that I hung out with and missed and did stuff with, you know. I think
exactly.
So and I know we had talked that 98 year, you know, we went from Breckenridge, we went to Snoqualmie, and then we had like a month break or something, and then it was all the way on the East Coast. And that's right, the finals were out in Vermont that year.
Yeah.
And so this was kind of my first breakout year that I did well. And I think when I got to that Vermont race, I was sitting in, I think I was set, my number was 7 overall. But I was in range to be in the top 2 if I, you know, did well enough. Yeah. And then, and so that race is where, you know, I realized that sponsors can make or break a rider, right? And they don't really care, right? It's not about you as a person, it's you as a racer. And you have to recognize that you're a business, but you're a limited commodity. Like, you can't be racing for 20 or 30 years. Again, some people can, certain people made it that long. So that year, that race, my bike broke. Ellsworth had taken my spare bike out of the trailer and it was out for a photo shoot.
Yeah, right.
And so when I got to that race, they were like, oh, you don't have a bike, it's broke. And I'm like, yeah, like, where's my spare? Let's just fix it. We don't have it. And I was like, well, what do you do? And they were like, well, you've got your dual slalom bike. And I'm like, I'm not racing that on the downhill course.
No.
And and so from there, I remember, like, you know, talking to different teams, and like Jeff Stieber, you know, from Intense was like, oh, Shaums, yeah, I got a bike for you. Here, set it up. And so I think I might have done a run on it. And by the time I had come back and it was like, okay, cool, I'll put my stuff on this bike and it'll be fine. My manager had talked to the owner of the team, and the owner said, no, you can't use that bike. If that bike, we're going to sue you. You can only ride on an Ellsworth bike. And so sitting where I was like in contention to be one of the top in the US or out off the back, it was frustrating.
So what did you do? Tell me, what did you do?
I gave up that race.
I gave it up.
And because I knew, you know, Team Big Bear, you know, the crew there, I went and commentated.
Right.
I just sat, I commentated, I talked to everybody and did interviews and all that. And basically I might have been actually sitting in the top 2, because I remember at the end of the year, I finished with a 7. That's right. So my 1999 number was a number 7. Right. Because I could have top 2 or top 3, but I ended all the way back to 7 because I didn't do that race. So, so I commentated. I basically just, walked around the pits, did interviews with everybody, played it off as it didn't matter, but I was so mad. There was nothing I could do.
I can imagine
being threatened, it's like, come on, like,
There's got to be a little. There isn't like there's the 95% thing of loyalty and commitment to your sponsors, but there's also that little bit at the top of just like you might just want a little hall pass, once a year kind of thing. Like if you have opportunity to then like get a really good result for yourself. I mean, there is that little bit of cream at the top where it's just like, okay, we'll let this one slide sort of thing. I had a very similar thing. I won't go into it, but I had to borrow a bike and ended up getting one of the best results of my younger life that then paved the way to get a pro career. So it can go either way, it really can, but you probably should have got a whole pass with that one. I'm just saying, but like, that's what all like sporting events are. I mean, it only reminds me of a time like when I was younger. I mean, like I won't go on about this too long, but we used to, like me and Daniel Ranga there, we used to play soccer together. Like we played all sorts of sports together as we were growing up. And my dad was actually the coach of our soccer team. Like that's how close our little community was. Like my dad was the coach. Like we knew everyone. Like a lot of the parents and stuff. Like we're all friends and all that sort of thing. But on a weekend when it came to the soccer match, if the other team didn't have enough players, then we would play for the opposite team. So just so we would have a match, because without some of our substitutes playing on the opposite team, we didn't even have an event. So like there was a few times where like because my dad was the coach, it was just like, well, I was kind of obligated to play for the other side, being like the good situation is just like, oh yeah, my son will then play for your team kind of thing. And so like it was a few times when we did that. And like at the time when you're a kid, you're like pissed off, just like, what am I doing this for, Dad? It's just like, just shut up, kid, and go over but yeah, at the end of the day, it showed camaraderie for your opponent, and then like a happy environment, like happy, and like, sporting is all sports are very competitive, but at the end of the day, if you don't have a tournament, then you don't even have a result or even a reason to be there. So yeah. Like, I'm the first person to, like, even when it comes to mountain biking, I mean, like we talk about the stories of borrowing bikes and getting results and things like that. Like people would come to us, and for a little while there, our mechanics were like, oh, we can't help out competitors. And like, I had the same conversation with them. It's just like, if we don't have competitors, then we don't even have a race. So we help, you go out there and you help your competitor. I mean, whether you like them or not, like generally everyone gets along. I mean, like that's probably not the right way to say it, but like I said, like sports, it can go either way. But like at the end of the day, we're all in it together. Thousands and thousands of people, we're all in it together. And if you don't work together, then we don't have a sport. So that's what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's where I think back then I was thinking, okay, well, I want all my other sponsors to recognize that I'm a team player, right? And I wanted to make sure. And I remember after that the owner just didn't acknowledge it really. Hey, great. No, sorry about that. No big deal. And I was like, no big deal. You don't recognize that I just might have lost my career because I didn't want to do this one event because of you.
Yeah.
But he didn't get it. And I just after, having the meetings and the talks back then, I went into that next year looking for new sponsors. And that's where Schwinn came on, and a few of those companies basically saw what I had done and understood that, okay, I could be a team player. And that's kind of where I came out with Schwinn. And Tomac was my other option. Again, another choice that maybe I should have taken, which was ride for Tomac versus go for Schwinn. But it was so iffy. And I'm trying to think, because did Jared Rando ride for Tomac? Who was riding for him in '99?
I think I know the Houseman brothers were riding with Tomac. I know Jared didn't.
Yeah, I know, because Jared was riding Foes.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And that because him and Kirkcaldy were on Foes. That's right.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And then we went to Schwinn in '99, I think, because then Kirkcaldy came on to Schwinn with me. Yeah. Wow. Flashback, man. I love it.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely a flashback. I mean, like we've got a lot of things that I want to cover. I mean, I really want to talk about like mountain bike career, like fantastic. But like, what do you like? I looked up all this stuff, and I know through the grapevine, and you mentioned it in a little pre thing. Like you've been racing off road.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about that, man. I'm so keen to hear about it.
I'm into racing and I need an adrenaline sport, right? And I'm just, as you can tell from my as a kid and the stupid stuff I did, and then being focused into racing, which helped harness some of my craziness. And now that I'm not racing, and I guess the other thing is that I need something to be really focused on. And so my transition from racing to becoming more of a civilian, as you would say, is it was coaching. Right. So my coaching took off and I really like that. But now I'm at another phase where now I'm starting racing. And so the side-by-side racing and motorsports are something I've always wanted to do. I never really could afford it. Motorbikes is one thing, but having like a truck or something was too expensive. I learned that the hard way. And then went into the new side-by-side world here where, you can get, the Hondas, the Can-Ams, the Polarises. And so starting to play in that world where it's a little easier, I think, because they're turnkey. You can basically order parts right from a Honda or Polaris or whatever you have. And, now everybody's making parts for them. So it's not so custom anymore. And that's what made racing always so expensive, is that everything was custom. And now you can do a pro class, but have it as a stock pro class, right? Versus an unlimited money budget pro class.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to stick to. And, I've been having fun doing that for the last 2 years now. And basically, last year I got into it kind of on a whim. I said, I want to try this side by side. And I had a couple of old ones that, I just had them around the property and it was fine. But I was like, I want to try racing. I want to see what this is really about. And I had bought a Honda Talon. It's the Talon R. It's a 1,000 two-seater. And it's reliable is what I wanted, right? Something that I could race and not have to work on every weekend. So I kind of did my research about, there's all the belt-driven machines out there. And Honda makes one that's actually 5-speed dual transmission clutch, so you got paddle shifters. And so super fun. The Yamaha makes a YXZ that's super fast as well. But that Honda just caught me because I knew it was going to be reliable. So I got in and I bought it online, sight unseen. My brother was driving up from California, so he met me in the middle. We both drove like 8 or 10 hours and met in the middle. And we met at this dunes area right on the beach, and it's big, and there just happened to be this Dune festival going on. And I was like, oh, that sounds good. Let's pull up and we'll just camp here for a couple of days. So I got sucked into that really quickly, and they had some short course racing, and then they had some other events going on, and I signed up for the short course, and I proceeded to win that whole thing in my first 2 days of owning the car, and realized that I had beat a couple of the pro racers, and they all came knocking saying, hey, who are you? What's going on? Why are you
Yeah, right.
I was like,
that's what I was going to ask. I mean, like, I don't want to interrupt you, but like, so you're basically like you burst onto the scene with mountain biking, and then you pretty much did the same thing with racing off-road as well. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much, yeah. And I think I have racing in the blood somehow. I don't know where I got it from, but yeah. And so, yeah, this last 2 years has been me racing and doing really well. I think I raced the first couple of races in their sport class, intermediate class. And so I went straight to pro after that and have been doing well. Right. So I think I was second last year.
It was the same. So you just like, I'm gonna pick up this little task here, and then all of a sudden I'm gonna win, and then I'm just gonna do this for the rest of my life now. So
a few years of it anyway, right? And that's the thing though. I get focused, and all of a sudden, because otherwise I'm doing 20 different things and I can't focus. But as soon as I find something that I'm passionate about, and I think that's the ADHD, right? I gotta find something I'm passionate about. Otherwise, I'm doing everything half-ass. So yeah. I found this, and all of a sudden, I'm full on into it, and I love it right now. And I've got my car dialed and tuned, and I've been going through the whole thing, and this has been short course. So this is like BMX racing with side by sides, right? So
that's what I saw. Yeah.
Yeah, like 10 or 12 cars on the line and go, and you got jumps and berms and all that, and And, people hit you and, you're banging doors. So it's super fun and an adrenaline, but you have a roll cage and a seatbelt. So it's that much safer is what I feel.
It sounds amazing. I mean, like I am jealous of you because like, I would love to do something like that. I mean, like obviously in America, there's a much bigger pool of that sort of thing. I'm sure we do have it here, but I honestly haven't seen it like locally kind of thing. But when I first started, I mean, like I was stalking you like in the lead up to this podcast, and I saw you like driving around in these things. It just looks like the maximum amount of fun you could possibly have, and you're in competition as well. And like you said, like 12 guys in these cars racing around, doing jumps and like hitting berms and stuff like that. Man, it's got to be heck of a lot of good time. I wouldn't even care if I won. It just I want to be mid pack because I want to be where the action is. I just want to be.
You're totally right. Yeah, you're totally right. If you pull out and you're out front, it's awesome, but it's boring. You're like, I'm winning. I want somebody to come past me so I can play with somebody.
Yeah, right? That's it.
So,
that's
exactly it's been cool because we've got a good crew of racers, and we've all kind of said, hey, let's try to leave our cars stock-ish, right? Put a tuner on it, but if you rebuild your motor, all of a sudden you're faster than everybody, and you're just out front, and it's no fun, right? That's and so everybody's realizing that let's just do these couple of things, and we've got 6 or 8 guys that are all racing, having a really good time. And it's really competitive, and you're not, having one person that's way faster or slower because everybody's kind of cars.
That's not good. I mean, like I know a couple of guys in motorsport and stuff like that, and they do different things to get advantages and whatnot. But like at the same time, like I said, like you want to be mid pack, like you want to be where the action is. You just want to like comfort in chaos sort of thing. I like to use that term sometimes. Like this is where the action is. This is where I'm in my zone now. This is where something's going to happen. I don't know what it is, but something's going to happen. But,
and that's the thing. That's the excitement. It's all the adrenaline right in there. The other part about that, though, too, is it's expensive, right? You're still, when you're in that chaos, you're bumping. There goes a fender. There's another $80. There's this and that. So you're like, if somebody rear ends you and you don't have your radiator cage, properly set, or you rear end somebody else, it can get expensive real quick. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, I like being in the pack, but I don't want to be with, the crazy in the pack. I want to, I'll slip back and then slingshot somebody. And it is fun trying to get the lead. But again, if you get the lead too quickly, too early, and it's just easy, then you're kind of like, I'm just having a good time racing, but I'm not actually being competitive. I'm just having fun racing, right?
Yeah. But
it's been really fun. It's kind of like my dream come true. From a kid, I've always wanted to do this, and getting here, it's making me happy. And now I don't have to do it professionally. And that's my thing. Like, I'm racing pro class because that's where my competition's at, but I'm really purposely, I don't want to try to go get a whole bunch of sponsors and put pressure on myself. I'm just out here, have some fun. Like, I did it for 1.5 years and now, or 2 years. And so my last race in October was a desert race. So this is probably something you have more of in your area, where it's a 200-mile race, and there were 4 laps of 50 basically. Right. And so we did. Right. And I didn't quite make the whole thing, right? So now I'm that much more excited to do it next year.
You do it again, that's it. You've got the bug now. All of a sudden, you have to get out there next year, improve.
Exactly. And so lots of people on the track, so you're passing people here and there. It's not door to door the whole time, and you're still just racing yourself to get to the finish, right? And then from there. And again, that's a whole nother bug and a whole nother demon of racing and things like that, of trying to figure out how to go the distance, where the short course is, 6 laps in a small area, jumping and whatever. You pull into the pits, change your tire, and then get back out there, in the next 45 minutes. So, it's fun. It's fun, and you're welcome to come anytime.
Oh yeah, I just got to sort out my visa situation with the US, but that's all in due time. I mean, I've done heaps of travels in my time, and I'd love to come over and check it out. But like you said, we've probably got the same thing here. Like, we don't have it. I mean, I'm sure it's out there, but to be honest, the desert. I mean, most of Australia is desert, but it's quite a ways away from where we are. But I'm sure it's out there, and I'd love to give it a crack one day. I've always loved motorsport, and I want I consider myself to be a good driver, although like, you know, you get in the car with a pro guy and you're like, hang on a minute, I'm not that good, you know, but it's just the nature of the beast and how it is. But yeah, like we're going to sort of start wrapping it up pretty soon here, Shaums, but I want to touch base more on the all ride thing. I mean, I think you're doing really great things with getting the guys out there and like with your coaching and all that. It's called all ride, isn't it? Is that correct?
No. We've got the BICP, which is the Bike Instructor Certification Program.
All right.
With lots of organizations.
Oh, all right is that's Kurt. Sorry, my mistake.
Yeah. And so like some of Kurt's crew and his ex who does that, we certify their staff. So they learn from us on how to teach jumping, how to teach cornering, and so our certification program has been built through the Canadian program, and I ended up purchasing that program back in 2000, I don't know, 6, 7, or 8 or 9 or something, and then growing it because it was just a Canadian thing. And so I took it and made it into an international program. So we're all over the world. We've got over 4,000 or 5,000 members and certified instructors. We've got a group of, I think we're up to 25 or 30 instructor trainers, so that go around and certify groups. So we do all sorts of, clubs, people that are running coaching programs, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, schools now in our local town. The schools now have mountain bike programs. So for the elementary kids and the high school kids, they can go and instead of doing math club or soccer club, they actually have mountain bike club now. Yeah, cool. And so that's great. So it's been cool. Our program now is I guess one of the most recognized, and the certification processes are some of the most standardized in the industry, and so a lot of people look to us. So we are the only one that actually have an insurance company backing us. We've got all sorts of safety organizations. I get calls now from lawyers in courthouses, so I go and become a professional witness for different things that way too, for court cases. Yeah, right. So it's been really neat that way. So we're recognized in multiple areas. USA Cycling, which is our organization body, we run the certification for mountain biking for them. So they certify coaches on how to be a coach. Then we certify them how to teach riders how to ride. And so it's when I got
we have a similar thing here as well. Like you have to have a certain category, a certain qualification to even like go out to a club and then like coach in a group sort of thing. There's all sorts of like we have to have like an outdoors mark as well. I know that's the case in New Zealand as well. It's like also having like exit plans and like medical certificates and stuff for that. So it's a really good thing that you're doing. Yeah.
No, it's been great. And I think that's like Danny, you were going to say what's one of my, biggest achievements, right? And I'd have to say, as much as racing was an achievement, I never had any goals. I never wanted to be number one or think I could be the best. I was always just having a good time. But I think one of the biggest and greatest achievements that I've done is to work with coaching and to buy this program. And then it took me a few years, and I released it and I turned it into a nonprofit. So I don't own it anymore. It's its own entity. And I think that's one of the things I'm most proudest about, because it's a big entity and it is running all by itself, and it's got, members that do its thing, and I'm on the outside of it now. I'm still president right now for a little while longer, but I'm just there to help it grow and keep it going and keep the new instructor trainers, going with all their knowledge. And I just love that something that I've helped create and build and grow, I guess, with this organization is still going to go after I'm gone.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty stoked.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
Thing.
Yeah. Sounds amazing. Like just getting the kids involved
back to the sport as well.
Yeah. And I think that's the part of it, right? Because a lot of people, and I think of, the trail builders, they've got trail companies everywhere, and, the pump tracks and those things, right? So, I know all these guys that came from racing in different free ride worlds, and they've got their companies. And so mine's a little unique. So I'm not always just doing the build of a park, but I'm teaching the riders how to use the park. And goals and focus is to teach people how to have fun on the bike, how to play on your bike, right? So not just how to ride, how to get up and over an obstacle, but how to play on it. Make sure you can
enjoy it,
enjoy it and express yourself on it. And that's what's been so cool, because I know we've worked with, you know, officers, because that's another thing we do is police training. I've worked with officers that have been doing bike patrol in cities and universities for years. And then once I work with them in our program, they're like, I didn't realize this was my job. This is amazing. And their whole life's changed. 2 of our officers now compete, right? Like since we worked with them, and another one does these big adventure rides, and his garage is full of bikes now. Where before he had his patrol bike, he knew nothing about it. It was just my work bike. But now, so it's pretty cool.
It's funny. It's funny to say that. Like we have like the on bicycle police here as well. And I remember I was riding my bike through Surface Paradise once, and like they were like I was riding in the wrong area, okay? And so like they started riding after me, and I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna leave these guys, and these guys had no chance of catching me. I'm not saying I was running from the cops, but at the same time, I just like this. You got to be kidding me! And so I just took off from these guys, and like it was funny at the time, but I probably shouldn't have done it. But what I'm saying is, I could have probably pulled these guys up and said, "Okay, I'll teach you how to ride. I'll teach you how to catch me. Okay, like you can try, and I'll show you how to do it." Like it's actually a really big market for that. Like just to come and coach those guys, like you've done. Yeah.
Well, and it's something that's it's a big market. Like we're getting requests from all around the world. Like we have instructors in Australia as well. So that's something that if people want to get certified and be in Australia and run a business, or if they want to take the police program, we can certify them to train police officers and take that program wherever they want. You know, Mike Brown is I think he's back in Australia. He might be in New Zealand right now, but he's back in Australia working and doing certifications. And I'm not sure exactly where he's at. I know he just wrote an article for Flow Mountain Bike, Flow MTB. And so I know his articles, I think in there just this month or whatever. But he's doing stuff there in Australia, and we've certified lots of riders and different coaches in different areas there.
Nice.
I've come down there myself, and we did the World Cup stuff, and you know, added certifications onto the end.
Yeah,
so
cool.
It's been, and the other side of that too is,
sorry, Shaums, really need to wrap it up here, but we've got a couple of questions we need to ask you. We usually finish our podcast.
Yeah. Sorry to cut you short there, but
No, it's good.
So, our first one is, what's your favorite Metallica song?
Oh, One.
One. Don't hesitate. Don't think about it.
No.
I thought you
always
said
been my favorite.
Metallica One. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's mine as well. So, great choice.
Nice.
But, second, when we're cooking steak, do you flip once, or do you continually flip until it's cooked?
Flip once.
Good.
Flip once.
Correct.
Yeah. Totally.
You are acing these questions.
Nice. I like them. We'll see how far.
Do you know these answers?
You've watched our previous episodes, haven't you? Like
our third question usually is for Australian guests. It's to do with the Tasmanian tiger, but we thought we might include something that might be closely related to you guys. Do you believe in Bigfoot?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Tell us a bit about that.
I think he's around somewhere, and I think there's a whole group of them somewhere, especially here in the Northwest where we are.
Yep.
You know, I know there's something out there, and I don't think we're the only ones that are walking on 2 feet out here, right?
So Bigfoot to you is a massive bear that walks around casually with his ATM card, going to the shops and back. But you just haven't seen him yet. You just haven't.
Right.
His name's Gary.
Gary. He's a hairy bastard. Him. Jesus.
Yeah, we definitely. I believe in all that. I totally believe in aliens too, and I can't wait for them to hurry up and get here.
Me too.
I think they're already here.
That's one of the bucket lists is to find out.
I've met some strange people where where are you from? That's the alien guy. Right.
I think we have one running our country now.
Oh, don't worry. We've had some doozies as well, man. Don't you worry.
Yeah. Well, and I really think he's brainwashed. They're doing some sort of mind control on everybody else.
Right.
This Biden or Trump?
Trump.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really something's going on there, because he's brainwashing people that say one thing and then they flip the other and just follow him hands down. And it's like something's going on. So we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, like, I've done media training. I mean, like, we're going to wrap it up pretty soon, but like what they teach in media training, they use politicians as a prime example on, like, you get asked a question, then you change that, and then you say what you want to say instead of answering the question. Politicians do it all the time. On every single level of politicians. Like, it doesn't matter what you ask them; they'll just tell you what they want you to hear instead. That's just what it is. And so, what I'm trying to say is really, like, to viewers out there, like, when politicians start barking all this stuff out, it's potentially not correct and not real, and so don't take it to heart. At the end of the day, they're after votes, and they're only trying to make some people happy. And don't take these things seriously.
Service, isn't it?
Don't take these things so seriously. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And again, you get the proof is in the pudding. We have to see what they actually do. Right.
Exactly right. It's not the pathway, it's the result. That's what it is.
Yeah. Well, and right now for us in the United States, the biggest thing is we have to work locally. So, everybody hears about the presidency, but what we need to do is vote on our local stuff. We need everybody to go out and vote and really be pushing our local politics to keep everything we want here, because otherwise that's where it starts falling apart. Yeah.
It's very similar to here, though. The one problem is that I have with that is, like, you go into the voting booth, you see a list of names there, you don't know who they are, you've never seen them in media, you don't know what they're about, and like they quite often, unless they promote the absolute crap out of themselves, you honestly don't know who you're voting for. So that's my little beef with that. But yeah.
Well, and again, so think about that is back in the day, the public had to go and find out who they are.
Yeah, you still have to. Yeah.
Everybody wants them to come to us, but that's not how it is. We need to go figure out who is running. Who are these people? Right? So it is up to the public to actually do their research, as everybody says, but at least look them up. At least try to find their Facebook or find out what they are voting on. But a lot of people say, they don't know anybody. They don't know who they are.
Yeah, that's where I was. I was in the booth there with a bunch of names and a pen with some boxes, and it's like, okay, well, oh yeah, with the pen in your mouth, like, drawing smiley faces.
Come down your way.
Yeah, always welcome, man. Always welcome. Australia's this, like, you've been here before, I'm pretty sure. And like, it's just this amazing place. It really is, like, we talk about politics and all that sort of thing, but like I mentioned earlier in the cast, I don't really watch TV, and that's an advantage for me. I try not to, I make effort not to get caught up with the politics and all that sort of stuff. Like the 5 o'clock news, I turn it off, I'll go to the gym instead. That's just what it is. You got to stay active and don't take all those things to heart,
Yeah. No, that's good. That's what I think we need. Everybody needs to take that to heart, is turn off the digital device and go do something.
That's it.
Go ride your bike, do a hike, go do something.
Do something.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, that's a good thing. We might even end it on that note. Do something.
And do something.
Do something. I'm going to say even do anything, like people sit around on their butts, and, sitting on their phones and everything like that. Get out of the house, put the sun cream on, get out there and, meet some locals,
Talk to people face to face.
Get out there, man.
Yeah.
That's what it is. All right. Well, all I can say is thank you very much, Shaums. I mean, we threw this thing together. We sort of planned it, but I've got a list of other things I want to cover, but it's been an absolute pleasure having you. And it's always great to touch base with America there. I mean, I spent a lot of time there, got a lot of good friends, and all I can say is continue on the path that you're on. It's fantastic, and we touched on our growing ups a little bit, man. And it's just like we're all adults now and all mature, and like, you know, let's just keep going on this good path, man. I love it. And
I like it. Good job.
Good
job yourself with everything you got going on. I'm glad you're keeping things going and staying positive with it all. So yeah,
that's
Daniel,
it,
well, Nathan, you guys take it easy.
Yeah, man. It's been a pleasure.
Okay.
All right, thanks for coming on.
We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Yeah, man. Have a good day. Have a good night.
Right,
yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.